All of the injunction has, as you know, has entered against all of the defendants, against Mr., I don't want to get anybody's name wrong now, and I'm not good with these names. Mr. Chua,
Yeah.
the fellow that was in the pink coat here, pink jacket here.
Okay.
And the judge entered that as an order against him.
Yeah.
So there's a finding of likely to prevail on the merits, which is how they have to do it, et cetera, against him. The other defendants, we've entered an agreement, the stipulation, the preliminary injunction has been continued by agreement. And that's fine as far as we're concerned, because all we asked for at this stage was the preliminary injunction. And if they were going to agree to continue the preliminary injunction without the necessity of putting the court to a full-blown trial, then certainly that's something we consent to.
Yeah.
Simply saves everyone time and money.
All right. Now, the judge did ask basically about, whether you'll be seeking more than just to have them stop distributing the tape. Is that something that is still going to be pursued, the damages aspect?
At this stage, you have to assume that this is a regular lawsuit.
Yeah.
And that our next step will be to, after the time that they have to answer, which I think the judge gave them till June 15th or June 12th, something like that. That once that expires, if it expires without resolution, we have discovery to be served. That means we'll be serving them with written questions, we will be serving them with notices to produce documents, and we will commence taking their depositions. Until we get to the bottom of this and find out who made the tape and who distributed the tape. Precisely, everyone who made it and distributed it. And we're prepared to do that if I have to depose 100 people to find out. I will do that. Now, that having been said, I view this as essentially a dispute among people of the same religion and of the same community. And it appears to be something that I wish would be more appropriately resolved than in the courtroom. So we will seek to try to resolve it other than in the courtroom. We'll give that every good faith effort to try to do that. But it's a two-way street. It's not something that can be done only by one person trying that. Both sides have to. I think that because the defendants, except for the one gentleman, the defendants have agreed that the injunction should issue, that means they agree that tape should not be distributed. And I don't know what they're telling their community, but they told the court today that they agree that the tape should not be distributed. So that's it. Now, this guy obviously was telling you something about his particular client. I'd like the opportunity to hear about that.
Yeah, I was just going to address that.
Go ahead.
Basically, and I think that perhaps Mr. Meas has made a similar contention himself, he says this is, an attempt to go after Mr. Meas for his seeking of an audit of the temple project in the Pawtuckaville neighborhood. Could you respond to that?
Yes, it's a completely illogical contention. It falls of its own weight. Why do I say that? Why would Miss Men, if one is to take Mr. Meas at his contention, what he's suggesting is that Miss Men organized the distribution of this tape, organized her own humiliation in the Cambodian community for the sole purpose of embarrassing Mr. Meas in his request for an audit? I mean, that's utterly absurd. This suit was brought because a tape of Ms. Men naked in a bedroom, or whoever it was distributed. It wasn't brought to embarrass Mr. Meas. If Mr. Meas is standing up at the Sunny Da restaurant, as you heard from the stand, heard a witness say, he's standing up at the Sunny Da restaurant, urging people to look at a tape, and there's a DVD machine in front of him with the tape on it, He brought this on himself. If he didn't do any of that, Ms. Min wouldn't have any grounds to sue him. So for him to suggest that this is to go after his reputation is ridiculous. I've looked at a biography of Mr. Meas online that I presume that he put there. I don't know. Maybe somebody else put it there, but it was part of his political campaign in which he claims he's a partner. He's a principal in State Street Global Advisors. State Street Global Advisors is a company that manages $2 trillion around the world. As far as I'm able to ascertain, it's a wholly owned subsidiary of the State Street Bank. Mr. Meas is not a principal in that company. Mr. Meas is a grocer. So Mr. Meas, I respectfully suggest, is very prone to exaggeration. He was a Republican candidate. Most of the Cambodians are Democrats. He failed as a Republican. He sought to have his community convert and vote for him in the primary. They did not, because he was a member of the wrong party. He was very frustrated and angered at this. After his 2 losses, suddenly he comes out and wants he wants an audit done of the temple. There's not a cent missing in the temple, and to suggest that there is just absurd. The Attorney General has regulations that apply.
Yeah.
If an organization raises less than $250,000 a year, it's not subject to anything. If it raises between $250,000 and $500,000 a year, it's subject to a review by an accountant to determine whether they follow good practices. It's only those organizations that raise more than $500,000 a year that are subject to an audit. The CKBM will comply with all regulations of the Attorney General, but it's just not a regulation that applies to them in this instance.
So which of those that you listed do apply based on what they've raised?
It's less than the $250,000 in any year, as far as I know. I dare say there are no churches in the city of Lowell, or very, very few that are that powerful that would raise that amount of money that are subject to an audit. I mean, go to any one of the Protestant churches in the city that's an independent congregation and ask them if they have their books audited. It's a simple thing to find out. And audits are very expensive.
So just to conclude, before the next hearing, basically work will be undertaken to maybe reach some sort of resolution?
We're going to meet. I suggest that the attorneys will meet. Our first meeting will be to do a confidentiality agreement concerning this tape, because the judge wants that in by Monday, and we will do that. And then we will meet to attempt to see if we can resolve our differences in a civilized manner. But from our perspective, at least, that's going to involve having some specifics about who's been doing this to Ms. Min, and maybe some apologies for having it done.
Okay. And what is the confidentiality agreement you're seeking regarding the tape?
It's really simple. The tape is whatever it is. It's a picture of private goings-on and audio of private goings-on. If we submitted it simply as an exhibit, it might become a public document. If we gave it to counsel without a confidentiality agreement, they wouldn't necessarily be forestalled from passing it out to other people. So we're going to make an agreement amongst ourselves that we could share the evidence, in the event the case goes forward, and we will all agree among ourselves that nobody will distribute the tape to anyone. Certainly, I'm sure none of the attorneys would even dream of distributing the tape, but we will nevertheless reduce that to writing.
Mm-hmm. And it was submitted today, the tape, into evidence for the judge's consideration?
The judge took the tape in what we call in camera, which means behind the closed doors of the judicial chamber.
To take into consideration when deciding the case?
I don't perform the judge's function. She'll decide what she does with it.
Okay. All right, but what was the purpose of submitting it on your end?
Well, I think it's got to add some perspective to what's going on and what actually is on there to be seen and heard. Now, it's not everything, because my understanding is that there were audio tapes as well that were posted on YouTube. And the audio tapes, we don't have copies of those. Those went up and down on YouTube. Okay?
All right.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care.